It's Luke here for SimBoxx. Delighted this evening to be joined by Manchester's Leyton Collymore. Leyton, as we were just saying, feels like a long time coming. Glad to finally have you on the channel.
Yeah, 100%. Of course. Thanks for having me. First of all, do you know what I mean? It has been a while, hasn't it? But we're here now, so
That's it.
let's get it on.
Let's get straight into it. So we know we've got the big fight coming up September 2nd. Before we get into all that, usually with when I've had somebody on the channel for the first time, I like to go back into where it all began, where the love of boxing come from. Now, with yourself, it's a little bit interesting because am I right in saying there was a Muay Thai background to begin with back when you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, Leighton?
So obviously, I started that at the age of 12. Just started it as like a set of fitness kind of things to do. Football originally before that because of my dad. And yeah, it was just another outlet of fitness at the age of 12. You know what I mean? It was don't drop out of something and not do anything. And yeah, just fell in for the love of Thai at the age of 12, do you know what I mean? And then I got chucked into like British Championships after 3 months of being there. Do you know what I mean? And then it was just the rest was history kind of thing. It was just one of them where it just become so part of my routine in my life that it was all I knew, do you know what I mean? So yeah, it started at that, obviously from 12. Then I did amateur fights up to the age of 16. Well, I just turned 16 and then I turned professional at the age of 16 in Thai. And then fought from 16 to 21, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I had a long career, did a lot of things that I enjoyed, and accomplished a lot in it. I always will have the love for the sport because there's no bad feeling for me to have towards the sport, and it's what I started with. Do you know what I mean? So it's my pedigree. Um, and yeah, like I say, it was just one of them things. And then obviously I had a bit of time away. Knew that I always wanted to make the transition to boxing because I've always had an interest in it. Do you know what I mean? So it was like the next style. Obviously, people was like, "Oh, why are you going to the mixed martial arts path?" Or do you know what I mean? Going down into like the MMA, and obviously I enjoyed it. I did train it from here to time. But I just always like stand up fighting. So I knew that boxing was my next outlet. Do you know what I mean? It was just deciding when was the right time to change. But obviously, like in life, you never know when the right time is. You've just got to go for it and put 100% into it and see how it goes from there on. And obviously, this is where I'm at now with the boxing career. So it's been a bit of a rough journey, but we're plodding along and getting there 100%.
Absolutely. So, in those opening sessions, if you like, of boxing, whether it be sparring, training, and then, of course, the pro debut, what was the transition like in terms of being in the ring and the temptations, not to start throwing kicks and elbows and knees and all that kind of thing?
Everyone always wonders this one. I don't know. It might just be me personally. I don't know. I don't really have the temptation of thought. I never really did at the beginning, to be honest. I always did like a bit of boxing training or trained my hands in set ways. Obviously, not to the technical aspect of how boxing is now. Do you know what I mean? But for what I was doing in Thai, I always like to remain and use my hands. I just always believed that was one of my angles that I used in that sport. So I've always kind of tried to practice that angle. Obviously, there's stance differences, there's slight technique differences from the sport, which habits that I think everyone picks up from Thai, and obviously transitions to boxing that need to be changed. Which I'm obviously that's what I'm working on. But in terms of like the temptation to kick or give someone a cheeky little spinning elbow, it might pass the thought, but it doesn't go any further than that.
Brilliant. So
Yes,
in terms of growing up in Manchester and being a fan of boxing, who was the inspirations? Was the likes of Ricky Hatton and Michael Brody and Pat Barrett and those guys coming up? Was there anyone in particular that you enjoyed following back in your teenage years?
Yeah, so obviously, the few like obviously, the top Manchester lads, so Ricky, all them like Pat, obviously himself, obviously, joyfully now is my coach and manager. Do you know what I mean? Just obviously all the Manchester, like the Michael Gomez, all the people that was, prime, Manchester days, you know what I mean? Especially like the early 2000s era, like that era, do you know what I mean? Obviously, as well as that was a big idol of mine was Nigel Benn. My dad, he's loved boxing since he was young. Do you know what I mean? So we've always, funnily enough, always watched it. Do you know what I mean? Regardless when I was doing football or when I was doing Thai, we've always been watching it. Maybe not like too involved, but always watched it. And one of the ones I always remember him watching was always Eubank and Ben. So for me, they was like two of my favourite UK boxers, shall I say? Obviously, before understanding it all massively. Obviously, if you want to go international, we're going to like the Tysons and Ali's and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Which were idols for many, many kids across the world. Do you know what I mean? Not just in the UK and country. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I've always had a fascination to do with boxing. But yeah, I'd say Nigel Benn and Eubank was one of my two favorites. Like I say, I've met Nigel Benn. I had the pleasure to meet him. Do you know what I mean? And lovely fellow he is. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think I would say them in terms of that the local Manchester lads and that era of boxing especially was a big choice for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. So as we fast forward a little bit later, I was intrigued with the decision firstly for you to link up with Pat Barrett and Black Flash Promotions as your manager and your promoter. And then he come on to be the trainer for yourself down at Colliers and Moston Gym. Brilliant gym, proper spit and sawdust throwback gym there. Love the setup. Just take us through that whole process of linking up first with Pat as your manager and then now your trainer.
So I obviously, I've known Pat since pretty much I started. And obviously when I first started boxing and started to go for my license and stuff, I had a lot of issues with not a lot like bad issues, but just it's very tough to get a license in pro boxing, as a lot of boxers do know, which is it's a good thing because they are detailed and thorough. So I understand why. And I've always had that bond with Pat. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like I've known him for quite a while, and always had some kind of interaction with him. So obviously, when it comes to the joint, like the term of being a manager and like promoter and stuff, obviously because that's what he was first, he had the same vision and dream as me. Do you know what I mean? And he's seen what I wanted to see. Do you know what I mean? And he basically he's like having a poet that tells us a poem. He said it the right way, and I just seen his vision the perfect way. Do you know what I mean? And and that's why I just decided. I thought, what, from there on, I need to be, like with him and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So. Sorry, just thinking. I was just thinking that. Yeah. So no, yeah. So it was a good choice in terms of my career, in terms of like promoter and manager with him, because obviously I like the Black Flash Promotions shows. Pardon me, and the way they attack things. In terms of like even though it's like maybe a small hall, they give it that vibe of we want grander, we want more, we want to give these up and coming fighters that same experience as for him to get get used to that platform and break you onto it. So yeah, like that was a big part. And then after that, it was like obviously then in terms of like then changing it to towards training. And obviously I've seen the way Pat worked with his lads because I've been was around him and stuff, and and seeing the way he worked, and I just thought what, I want to be part of that foundation and that form. And obviously with him having the likes of Zelfa Linden and that all coming out of the gym and stuff, and talent, and you're seeing him excel. Of course, as a young lad, up and coming lad, that's what you strive for, and you look up to like the people like that. So for me, it was a no brainer. Do you know what I mean? To just finally make that jump and step and just give him full control of my career in terms of how we're going to go about it. Do you know what I mean? He was controlling it as a promoter and manager. Now he's controlling it as well as a trainer, and he's helping me develop. And it's been a good couple of months now, and we're growing, and I'm really enjoying every day. Can't complain. I can't thank him enough up to now, and I can't wait for obviously the future to come with us, as well. That's one of the big things.
Absolutely. So this fight coming up in September, it'll be your third fight of 2023. You've picked up 2 wins, and your first stoppage victory came back in July. Was that like a proud moment for yourself that you got that first stoppage?
Of course, yeah. Like a lot of people have said to me, in the past from my previous fights, like, oh, you could have easily stopped him and this and that. And I always believe that, even though that the people that class as journeymen and stuff, I take them serious. You know what I mean? Like, even though some people look at it and overlook them and think, oh, blah blah, you know what I mean? And they just see them as they're doing the job. But I don't. I see them as an individual like myself. Do you know what I mean? Some of them would love to be on that path, but it's just the way their life is, they can't. So you have to take them the same way. Obviously, some of the fights you might look and think, oh, he looks a bit relaxed, but that's just sometimes the way I think a person who comes across. I'm very a calm, collective person, I think, in general, when I fight. But I've always tried to learn something from each individual one, regardless of how many fights they've had or what their style is. I've always tried to know when the day does come and I'm in that more 50-50 fight, and I'm in with a lad that's wanting the same thing as me. I know that the rounds that I've done is counting, instead of it being the first 4 fights, 4 knockouts, which it does look good and it just draw the attention, but it's only 4 rounds in 4 fights, where I've done now in all my fights, barring obviously the last one, I've done all the rounds, which in under the lights and in the atmosphere, you can't get any better than that. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I think, that starting of my career is, it set me ready. And then obviously, thankfully getting the stoppage in my last one, just felt, in control. Obviously, I just joined Pat a couple of weeks before that fight, fully in the gym. So, it was a big stepping point for us in terms of career and in terms of myself, really. So I was really thankful, to have my first one under him properly and to get a stoppage. And, there was a lot to improve on it. Like, I'm a very bad perfectionist, but, being both Pat have sat there and spoke about it, in depth and said, yeah, of course it is, but it's a good starting point to go from now. And I think people are realizing that there is a different angle as well. Do you know what I mean? There's not just the cruise control Leyton through it all. Do you know what I mean? There is actually that side of me in there, which it is. It's just obviously it's got to be the right moment in time. And as you know, with experience and that, it'll come. And obviously, I've said previous experience, but it's a different sport. It's a different combat, even though I'm used to the lights and being in the dragon's den, as you would say, and stuff. It's still boxing, and I've got to learn the skill and that, and that's what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? I'm preparing myself for hopefully that one day the world title, where all the rounds now will count for them.
Absolutely, but at the minute, as you say, all eyes are on
Yeah.
September 2nd. We sit about a week away from fight night. So what's the plan from here, Leighton? The hard work's been done at the gym. Is it starting to taper down now with a week to go?
Yeah, of course, taper down. Just keep an eye on things. As pushing tickets and sales and stuff. That's a big factor for us, especially at this level. So just the generic things that everyone does. But yeah, just keep ticking now. Just keeping that sharp. Making sure that I'm just on that peak level so that ready for next weekend, and then it's showtime. Hopefully, I get to show people again another skill in my performance. You know what I mean, and show people what more I've worked on and what I've grown on. Do you know what I mean? Like that's my main factor, and hopefully, more importantly, showing Pat that the development is working and the plan is working, whether it's just a little percent, 1% of what we practice and out of everything is still 1% more growing and one more step in the ladder for me. 100%.
Love to hear that, Leighton. In terms of moving forward, obviously this fight's gonna take precedence, of course, but I've seen that in some of your fights you've been around middleweight, super middleweight, and whatnot. Is there an ideal weight class for Leyton Collymore moving forward, where you think this is where I want to campaign at?
So middleweight is my weight. Obviously, especially at this point now, it can fluctuate depending on opponent and stuff and timings and stuff. So it can fluctuate. So the more important thing is getting around at a comfortable point, but also, the right preparation and stuff. So yeah, but ideally championship weight, middleweight, and obviously, I want to grow into each. If I can be a multiple one, then hopefully that would be the goal. But yeah, conquer one, then take the rest. Hopefully that's God willing. But yeah, that's my mindset. Hopefully that's the plan.
Brilliant mindset. And just moving away from your career, speaking of middleweights, there's another big middleweight fight coming up. Liam Smith rematch and Chris Eubank Jr. It was a surprise and a stunning stoppage win for Liam Smith first time round back in January. So do you think this time it could be any different?
It's an entertaining one, I think, in terms of the fact that it's very unpredictable. I feel like the first one, even though I feel like people was overlooking Liam, and I'm not like putting Eubank down. Eubank, I idolize him as well. Like as you say, he's an exceptional talent. They're both very hard, but they both have very very contrasting styles, which makes the fight more questionable but exciting because it's like from a boxer's view, you look at it so differently, and it's like, well, it depends how the fight is being dictated, and it can literally go two ways. So to say, like, to predict, I wouldn't like to put a bet on it anyway, but to predict which one who's going to win, it's hard to say because I feel like you can't ever count Liam Smith out. He's durable. He's got the experience. He's a clever, smart boxer in terms of how he does it. He does things simple, but he does the simple very well. Where Eubank's, he's flamboyant. He's got the style. He entertains, but sometimes that can end up being his con in terms of in the situation, which it is an entertaining business. But I feel like for him on this time, I feel like he's going to go and do business, which then is just going to make it a very, hopefully for the public as well, a very entertaining fight. So I couldn't call and say if it's going to be a repeat or it's going to be a different decision because I feel like they're both going to give it the same treatment as it would be a world title fight. Do you know what I mean? I feel like they're both very, very serious about it, and I just hope it's entertaining. I just don't want to sit there and watch 12 rounds of just simple fighting, which sometimes it can be a masterclass. But I'm not saying that it needs to be a blood war, but something that we can all go, you know what, I remember that fight for the next couple of years and sit back and watch it, kind of thing. That's all I hope. But yeah, it's hard to predict, though. I have to say, I have to sit on the fence with this one.
Yeah, is it sure to be a great fight? But that weekend in particular could be a really successful weekend for yourself and for the Black Flash promotional team. We've got the show on Saturday, of course, and then the night before, your stablemate Lyndon Arthur, he goes for the IBO world title. The fight that was meant to originally happen with Suarez, it's remade, the IBO world title back on the line. Confident that your stablemate's going to go in there and do a job and become IBO world champion?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Like, obviously, training alongside of him and seeing him, do you know what I mean? Like, I've seen him train little bits from here and there, but like being able to be in there Monday to Friday and see him, and not just only that, but like training with him, do you know what I mean? And see, like, obviously gaining the knowledge of him, and he's so knowledgeable, like all the lads are, do you know what I mean? Like, they all bring something, whether they're the amateur lads or the pro lads, they all bring something, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I've got full faith in him, do you know what I mean? In my stablemate, 100%. Like, he's prepared. He's turned every stone over that he needs to be turned over. I just can't wait for him to just get the reward he deserves now. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, and God willing, everyone comes out of the fight perfectly fine. Do you know what I mean? That's the main factor. But yeah, I hope he gets the reward he deserves, because he does. Do you know what I mean? He's worked for it, and he's been in the game, and he's done the work. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, of course, 100%. I can't wait to see it though myself.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Leyton, just God willing, you get the victory on September 2nd. That'll move you to 8-0. Where does that position Leyton Collymore moving into the back end of 2023 and then moving into 2024? What's the goals? What's the aspirations? What are we targeting?
Oh, sorry, we had a signal drop there. Then sorry, what was that?
Sorry, so I was just saying that God willing, that you get the victory on September 2nd, 8-0, moving into the back end of 2023. Where would be where would the mindset of Leyton Collymore be at that point, moving into the back end of the year and into 2024? What's the goals and aspirations moving forward?
So obviously, it's looking into the into in terms of boxing now. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, like, that's the main goal: finishing this year and starting the next year, and starting it strong. Do you know what I mean? Having a good start to the year, getting that right momentum, and then maybe looking around and seeing what's available around mid towards the end of the year. Obviously, me and Pat have had conversations and stuff, and obviously, but we don't want to rush things, as well as take our time. We don't want to be just dragging our heels, but we don't want to be jumping the gun. Not because it's not like I'm not able to. I think it's just it's calculated. It's got to be right. It's got to be when you're ready. Do you know what I mean? And like I say, having full faith in my coach, and as a trainer and as my manager, I'll go with his decision, and do you know what I mean, and listen to his ideas, and trust the process in terms of it all. And like I say, God willing, and hopefully that process will pay us off, which I believe it will do. 100% it will do. Getting the wins, or and learning and growing each fight. And I think with that, I think it'll plan out the path right in front of me. With each fight comes. But yeah, hopefully a very big end to the year, and then big start to the next year, so that I'm ready for that year coming, which I think will be a good one.
Absolutely. Well, Leyton, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the channel. I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck for September 2nd. Is there anything you'd like to add before we finish?
Oh no, just first of all, just thank you for the time and the interview. I really appreciate that. Takes a bit out of your time of day. Do you know what I mean? Like, as we were saying, very busy schedule, so we really appreciate you squeezing me in. Obviously, shout out to my coach, my training mates. Do you know what I mean? Like, my stable. Without them guys, you know what I mean? This camp and stuff is not possible. And also to sponsors and everyone that supports. Like, massive shout out to all them people. Do you know what I mean? Because without them in this sport at the moment, especially at the lower level, it's very hard to cope with and hard to do. Do you know what I mean? So massive thank you to everyone like that. And also, yeah, just really appreciative of everything, to be honest. But yeah, that's what I'd give a shout out to. And obviously, family, friends, sponsors, just the usual drill, as everyone says. But yeah, massively thank you to them all.
Yeah, brilliantly said. Leyton. So, guys, make sure you check out Leyton across social media, keep up with his journey. And, of course, he fights September 2nd at Bowlers Exhibition Centre in Manchester on the Black Flash promotional card. Tickets are available, so make sure you check those guys out, and we'll catch you on the next one.